Now, when using the pen tool to create paths that we can then convert into a selection, we want to make sure that we're drawing and creating these paths accurately. We're going to create a path around this, which we can then use to cut this out of the background or to add an adjustment or anything like that. And when you're creating these, you want to find a good point to start. Now, I have this on the path option. This is going to be created inside of the paths panel, and we're going to choose where we want to set our first point. Now, I can click and I can drag out this handle, and what that's going to do is that's going to make my first curve come in this direction. Now, when you're drawing with the pen tool, there's a couple of options that you can use. One of the most useful options, especially when you're just starting out with the pen tool, is to work with the rubber band option on. You're going to see this up under the control panel at the top of Photoshop. And if you click and hold on this cog, this gear, you'll see the option for rubber band is right here. Now, before I turn that on, I want to show you what that actually does. When I click to set an anchor point and let go, and then go to click the next point, it does not give me a reference of what that curve, what that path is going to actually do. With the rubber band option on, it will. It will show me what that path is going to do before I actually click and create that path. So this is kind of a reference of what that path is going to do. And what we can do is we can click and create this path by clicking and dragging. Now I see right here that I'm going to have to change directions. So when I change directions, remember we can use our modifier key, the option key, to grab this handle. I'm just going to zoom in so you guys can see. I'm going to hold down my option key. That's going to allow me to move this handle in the new direction that I want it to go. And that's one easy thing to remember is when you're dragging out handles, you want to drag them in the direction of the curve that you want to create. And remember that all of this can be changed. The shorter the handle, the less dynamic the curve. The longer the handle, the more dynamic the curve. That's something that you're going to have to draw and get used to when you're using the pen tool. So I'm going to drag this out a little bit. I'm going to go set my next point, click and drag this out. Hold down option, and I know I'm going to change directions. Now in the last video, we looked at a couple of the modifier keys. When you're drawing with the pen and you accidentally put the point in the wrong spot, before I let go of this point, before I pick up my mouse, I can hold down my space bar, and my space bar will allow me to replace that point, move that point around, and I can place it in a new spot. I'll let go of my space bar, and then I can continue editing my path. So I'm just going to walk on around this just a little bit. Now the cool thing about the pen tool is that if I need to go back now and add a little bit of length to this handle, I can do that in a couple of different ways. I can use my direct selection tool. The modifier key for that is the command key, and I can click and drag the strength of that or change the direction of that. But I see that when I use my direct selection tool, it's going to change both paths. So for this adjustment, I may want to use my convert anchor point tool, which will allow me to change the strength. I'm going to move this point first. allow me to change the strength of this without manipulating this handle. So I can control how strong that curve is going to be. And again, this is just going to take some time to get used to using. I'm going to zoom out. Now you want to use the fewest amount of points that you have to, using those modifier keys to change direction and change strength of your handles. So this is my path. It consists of mostly simple curves that just have single directions from point to point, but maybe a couple of complex curves. But the finished path is going to be located over here in the Paths panel. And why this is important is that you can create as many paths as you need over here, but you need to make sure that you save them. And the way that we save these is we double click on the path over here in the Paths panel and we give it a name. I'm just going to name this one Ducky. We'll click OK. This is my Ducky path. Now the cool thing about this path here is that it can be loaded as a selection. One of the easiest ways to do this is to hold down your command key and click on the duck icon over here. That will convert your path into a marching ant selection. Now you still have your path over here and you can still select it. I'm going to deselect my selection. And if I click over here, I see that that path is still located here. And I can go grab my direct selection tool or my path selection tool. And if I click on that, you'll see all your anchor points pop back up. If you select your direct selection tool and you need to go back in and edit your path, you can do that as well. So this is a really, really powerful feature. So again, we can hold command, click on the duck. We can also come down here to the bottom of the path panel and we can select this icon, which is load path as a selection, and it'll do the same thing. So that's how we use the pen tool to create paths, complex paths, and we can use those complex paths to create complex selections.